Pay-per-view reports for Tyson, Roy Jones came in over 1 million. To put in perspective for you guys how massive that number is in the world of pay-per-view, I mean, pay-per-view as we know it largely doesn't exist. It's all done through digital platforms. We still call it pay-per-view, but it's not. The definition has greatly changed to the point that I would say pay-per-view is just gone. It just doesn't exist. Well, you could buy Mike and Roy old school. Sit on your television, push the button. It's exactly what I did. I only bring that to you because even in the time when pay-per-view was red hot and that was a thing, if you break 1 million, you are a star. That is a grand slam. That is a extremely rare number. In the world of MMA, it's been done. It's been done a number of times, but over 20 years, it hadn't been done 20 times. It's one of those things. It's a massive, massive success. So when you start to look at Mike Tyson, now you're starting to get people that are more and more interested. And you do have a question. I mean, there was a formula there. We're giving Mike all the credit. We're acting as though Roy wasn't there. By the way, Jake Paul is a proven success. He's a proven draw. He even did live gates and sold them out completely for 7-figure numbers. I mean, in all fairness, you do have to start to wonder what piece on the board was the king. And though, yeah, okay, it was Mike. Okay, but by how much? I mean, right, if you're going to try to duplicate this formula in the future, there was some moving parts that weren't just Mike. Fine. Hold that thought. Here's what I want to ask you. I think we can all agree this is going to be a thing. We are going to see more Mike, and we are definitely going to see Mike sooner rather than later in 2021. Okay, but who do you want to see him against more? And I'm going to give you 2 options. Evander Holyfield, Buster Douglas. Buster has now come out of the woodwork and called out Mike Tyson, and why we all think that it's pointing towards the Evander piece. You now have an option that not only do you get to choose, you have to understand Mike now gets to choose. Mike also gets to be part of that. He fought Evander a couple times. Maybe they made up over the years. Maybe they didn't. Maybe he's scared of Evander and all. Who knows? And maybe he would like to get that one back from Buster. Maybe he doesn't give a damn about it. But I don't know the answer to this either. But as we're speculating, we're attempting to guess, there are really 2 pieces that matter here. Your opinion that I just gave you, and I imagine more will come out of the woodwork. But as press time, as they say, when I sat down in this chair right now, we've got 2. Yesterday, if I would have talked to you, we had 1, which was Evander, and appeared to be the very obvious choice that Mike was even speaking about. Go, yeah, I get it. It's obvious too. Let's get this thing done. Evander's people keep screwing this up. Evander comes on the back end and says, we haven't screwed anything up. We're willing to sign right now. Where the truth is on that, I think it's probably a little bit closer to Tyson. I imagine Evander and his people have screwed it up. Evander's been around for 30 years. Evander's people have done nothing but screw up his career. I don't see why we would have any reason to believe they're not going to screw this one up as well. But that should be a pretty simple yes. I mean, if you guys will remember an Evander Holyfield, if you want to talk about the greatest boxers of all time, feel free to have a very fun debate, but you've got to include Evander. That dude's career, including in the amateurs and the Olympic Games, that dude's career is fascinatingly successful. And he never wanted to leave. That's the part I'm trying to remind you of. He never wanted to leave. And it even became an issue where I can remember the Teddy Atlases of the world, the Max Kellermans, the George Foremans, coming out and speaking. I remember Riddick Bowe doing a piece, coming out and speaking. I remember Larry Holmes doing a piece, the biggest names in boxing, the most respected guys, saying, look, the commission's going to have to step in and not license this man, or you're going to have to say, to hell with it, and if he wants to go out there and not have any brain cells left, let him. This was a dialogue, and some of it had to do with the fact that he was slowing down, his results were changing, he still had the same passion. He still wanted to do it, which I thought was a really cool thing. But you were also starting to hear it with some of his speech pattern, where it was getting a little bit harder to understand Evander, and people were equating that to some of the blows he took. I'm only sharing with you where Evander left off because Evander never wanted to stop. I think that that's relevant if he's attempting to negotiate with Mike. If Mike's version of this accounts is that Evander's people are slowing this up and screwing it up and not getting it done, You juxtapose that with the fact that you've got an athlete who never wanted to stop but had to stop. He quit getting options, right? He's not just worth a piece of what they believe that business can bring in. He's also worth whatever he can get somewhere else, which is nothing. Nobody's coming to Evander Holyfield and offering him less than $1 million, just to let you know. If Evander gets a call from a promoter to fight Mike Tyson, they're starting at $1 million. They might be starting at $3 million. I'm just sharing with you. When I say he can get nothing somewhere else and therefore that's what now, I don't mean it like a scumbag. I mean, he's going to get a very meaningful offer. And this is a guy who hasn't fought in a long time. And this is a guy who wants to fight. And this guy who had very public debt and bankruptcy and financial issues. I bring that for you because if Mike's right and Evander's people are screwing this up, trying to cling and squeeze to something as though they've got the right end, they don't have the right end of this. They will be chosen. The right end of this is Mike. The only end of this is Mike. You remove Mike Tyson from the equation. We're not having this conversation. I'm not making a piece. I'm not interested, and you guys aren't listening to it. In all fairness, you have one king on the chessboard. So if Evander is fortunate enough to get this phone call, his people need to not screw this up, as they've done to a potentially criminal extent for his entire career, if it's the same people. In all fairness, they need to get this done. And now when you have Buster Douglas sliding in on a 9 out of absolutely no, what? What are you talking about? At the same time, you stop what you're doing. You go, really? Really? And yes, you see a desperation. It would have been much better in a perfect scenario had Mike called out Buster. For Buster to have the biggest upset in boxing history over Mike and then to call Mike out oozes of cash grab. Now, we understand that. This is one of the few times in sport where we understand what this is about. It's about our money pulling and pitching in exchange for their efforts. And we're okay with it. It's the one time where that isn't nauseating, but it's also one of the things that if Buster could have done this better, he would have got called out by Mike. Hey, by the way, if we're doing redemption stories, I'll give Peter McNeely a rematch so he can have his redemption, but I want mine too, Buster. That would have been the ideal way for Buster to slide in, but either way, here Buster is, and that does change things for Evander. If Evander's people are attempting to hold out on the only offer that their athlete has been given in a meaningful, but the last time Evander Holyfield was in a ring, he was doing some kind of a session with Mitt Romney. And yes, that Mitt Romney, yes. So he's looking for something to do. And if he's getting a 7-figure offer, say, hey, great, what are we doing with points on the back end? Let's go out and promote this, sign and get in the ring. But now when you see the problem. If they held, and I'm adding a lot to this, guys. I don't know what his people did or if they even did anything. I'm going purely off of a comment that Mike Tyson made that Evander's people are holding this up. If and only if that is accurate, I'm sharing with you why they are. They think that they're holding the thing that Mike needs for a comeback. They might have thought they might even been right for 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden Buster slides in. Guys, this is one day later. Somebody else is going to come in. And you don't know who it's going to be, and it's going to be interesting. A Bernard Hopkins type. Somebody's going to come in. Lennox Lewis. Somebody's going to come in, which changes the things for Evander. Get the contract signed and get this done. And it also makes you wonder if this is going to become a thing, and it is, at least for a short term. And I think that's good news. In all fairness, I had a lot of fun with it. I think you guys did too. Where's the commission going to sit on that? The only person that hasn't been asked his opinion after the fact is Andy Foster, and that's a damn big opinion. Now, the fact that you haven't heard from Andy, I think in this situation, it's that old adage, no news is good news. I think that Director Foster must have liked it, must have thought this is above board, this is what we agreed to, the rounds seemed to work out, everybody went home in one piece, and that's the ultimate thing that I want. I think he must have liked that, but if this is going to be something, and you do have commissioning issues in the past with Evander, it would just add to the fact that if there's any truth to what Mike Tyson's saying, that Evander's people are holding this up, they are not holding from a position of power anything that anybody needs. They just did 1 million buys on a show that Evander wasn't part of. Every piece of the equation and every piece of evidence that we have shows, Evander, you're getting a gift. The guy bit your ear off. He feels like a jerk about it. He knows your situation. He was in it and he's giving you a hand up. Evander, take it.